Federal laws and regulations that apply to celiac disease in learning environments. In this training video, experts will explain several federal laws that apply to children with celiac disease and how to apply these rules in different learning environments. At the end of this video, viewers will be able to identify celiac disease as a condition that qualifies for accommodation under the Americans with Disabilities Act and Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. Explain the differences between a 504 plan, individual health plan, and an individual education plan, and how each may be used to document accommodations for a child with celiac disease. Describe 3 accommodations for a child with celiac disease that would qualify under these laws. Let's get started.
I go to public school in Virginia, and all my friends get a nice, warm, and safe lunch. But I'm stuck with the lunchbox. But now they can provide me a nice and safe lunch.
When Rowan was first diagnosed with celiac disease, the cafeteria at her school did not provide any gluten-free options. Working within the 504 process, we were able to work with the dietitian and the cafeteria staff to identify items that Rowan could have that were safe, and she's now able to eat gluten-free pizza on Pizza Friday with all of her classmates. I'm really excited that she has the opportunity to be included and to have the same thing as her friends.
There are several federal laws that public schools and those who receive federal assistance are required to follow, including the Americans with Disabilities Act and Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. The Americans with Disabilities Act defines disability as a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities. Eating or major bodily functions such as digestion or immune function are included within that definition of disability. Exposure to gluten for a student with celiac disease can affect the student's ability to learn, as well as seriously endangering the individual's health. For this reason, the Americans with Disabilities Act protects students with celiac disease. Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 applies to public schools and educational institutions that receive federal financial assistance and prohibits discrimination on the basis of disability, including diseases such as celiac disease. The educational institution must provide educational programming that is designed to meet the educational needs of the individual student with a disability as adequately as the needs of a non-disabled student are met.
But what does this really mean practically in school for a child with celiac disease?
The learning institution must provide a reasonable way for the child with celiac disease to learn in the same way as his or her peers while preventing exposure to gluten. Some ways schools can accomplish this are to allow the child access to the bathroom and health staff as needed. Avoid the use of gluten in class projects, arts, science experiments, and other learning activities. Provide a gluten-free option for children with celiac disease for any learning environment-sponsored event involving food. For example, parties, holiday celebrations, snacks, and rewards. Use non-food incentives for prizes, gifts, and rewards. The food service provider should offer reasonably equivalent gluten-free food options for children with celiac disease that are cooked using methods to prevent cross-contact with gluten. Require children with celiac disease to wash their hands with water and soap before and after eating. Let's be honest, this is a good practice for all children in a learning environment though. Avoid off-site activities that would exclude children with celiac disease from safe participation. For example, a bakery, or some other venue that would not allow for a gluten-free accommodation.
A full list of reasonable accommodations is listed in Table 1 of the 2020 Voluntary Recommendations for Managing Celiac Disease in Learning Environment. Please don't forget to download a copy.
One way that my school accommodates my gluten-free diet that makes me feel safe and included is at class parties. During class parties, everyone eats gluten-free food so that no one feels left out or different, and I don't have to worry about cross-contamination. I love my school. My school has a no food policy, so I don't need to worry about gluten in my classroom.
When my friends bring in a snack for their birthday, I usually get something different because it's usually not gluten-free. So when I get something different, it's usually twice the size.
What I love about my Taco Tuesday is that I get to have my favorite food, tacos. And they did it a different way at first, but then I got used to it and I tried it and it was yummy and delicious.
The dietitians at Rowan's school have been working really hard to identify additional options for her in the cafeteria that are just like her classmates who are also eating Taco Tuesday. It turns out a lot of the options that the kids are getting can be made naturally gluten-free without a lot of accommodations. And so she's able to participate and have some of the very same meals that the other kids are having. We've just had a great experience using the 504 process to ensure that the dietitian and the school cafeteria staff, everybody's on board to ensure that she is able to eat safely.
Every day at lunch, I get to go check with the chef to see what's gluten-free and what is safe. And they get to make me something that is safe.
There are also laws that govern food that apply to children with celiac disease. The FDA's gluten-free food labeling law regulates the use of the term gluten-free on food labels to ensure that food items using that term do not contain wheat, barley, rye, or any derivatives of those ingredients, or contain less than 20 parts per million gluten. As such, the minimum basic requirement for a safe food item for a child with celiac disease must also meet these criteria. The National School Lunch Act was created to provide qualified students with a free or reduced cost school lunch meal. The U.S. government achieves this by providing subsidies to both public and private schools. Gluten-free diet can cost almost twice as much as a conventional diet, putting many families through financial stress. A gluten-free meal option is included in a qualified student's right to a free or reduced cost school lunch meal. The Child Nutrition Act helped strengthen and expand the National School Lunch Act. Among the extensions were the Special Milk Program, a free and reduced cost breakfast, and financial assistance to schools for equipment to extend breakfast services and lunch services to more children. Most importantly, it paved the way for the U.S. Department of Agriculture to set uniform standards for nutrition in breakfast and lunch services. This law would apply to any student who qualified for a free or reduced lunch and who also required a gluten-free diet, ensuring that appropriate and nutritious food would be served.
At my school in the cafeteria, they have gluten-free food, but I like the food that my mom makes even better.
Bringing your lunch is okay too, but it's great that the school is providing a safe gluten-free option for students with celiac disease who may need to eat the meal that's provided by the school.
We work with hundreds of schools across the country, and I constantly hear that a child with celiac disease should not have a 504 plan and instead should have an independent health plan. This is incorrect.
A child with celiac disease should have a 504 plan in place. The 504 plan is a legally enforceable document that details how a child's disability will be accommodated. While in certain circumstances, an individual health plan may be appropriate, it does not replace the need for a 504 plan. The only exception is if a student has already in place an existing individualized education plan. If the student has an existing individualized education plan in place, the accommodations specific to celiac disease may be included within that plan or may be included within an accompanying individual health plan.
During this module, our experts discuss several ways to reasonably accommodate a child with celiac disease. It's important to remember that the type of specific accommodations will vary based on the child and the type of learning institution that they attend. If you have questions about how specific accommodations are affected by these federal laws, please contact the agencies that oversee the specific regulations, including the U.S. Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division, the Department of Education, or your state's individual disability resource center. These agencies have great resources to help make sure that children are kept safe in any learning environment.